YouTube. Dan Staten here on the Daily Dan blog. Hey, Thresh Pondo Ponds, I want you to check this out. I got Weird Wonder Tales #1 from 1973. Hey, this is a really old, classic, cool comic book, but you're not going to believe the horror that waits inside this book. And I guess the best way to get to the horror is to go ahead and bust it open. They wasted the inside front cover on a stupid sell some seeds ad. That's horrible. We start off with the thing that devoured a planet. That's right, this horrible creature's coming forth as we steal from Star Trek back in 1960s and 1973 in this comic book. That's right, Mr. Weatherby's telling the Archie gang all about a plant killer he saw on a Star Trek episode a few years earlier. In full disappointing drug-out panels, we get Mr. Weatherby telling the Archie gang all about the planet killer that goes from planet to planet, sucking and destroying planets, eating asteroids, eating comets, and everything. The crowd goes, ah, what horror, as another planet goes down to the Planet Eater. And, of course, that calls for 2 pages of really interesting commercials where you could have had all the cool back patches you could have ordered from Roach Creates a Monster. Oh, that might be the coolest thing in the book. Back in 1973, because every little kid needed a back patch with the Budman on it. Because Budman's in a comic book. I wonder if the Marble Man's floating around out here somewhere. Hey, that joke worked in the first cut. It's going to have to work in the second. Look, it's even got a little picture of Michael Harper up in here. And this is what he should have took back in the day. Michael Harper, if this thing's still around, you should order this. And maybe you, too, will not be a Sagmaster no more. So basically, the dismal tale just goes on with Mr. Weatherby telling the Archie gang all about this planet killer that goes from planet to planet, sucking and destroying everything, including sucking the heat off the sun. You know what kind of strength you gotta have to suck the heat off the sun? It reminds me of this girl I dated back in 1985. Anyway, planet after planet goes down to the planet killer in a incredible Star Trek comic book ripoff. Brought to you by the Daily Dan blog. And once again, such excitement calls for some really great commercials about girls who are just too skinny and needs to gain weight. Yeah, they don't really have that problem in South Carolina. And you could have got this ink pen that was a spy radio that you could have turned it on and left in the car and then heard what your parents were saying about you behind your back like I did and break your heart. Or you could have learned to play guitar, take karate, or got that really cool blow-up doll that Roy ordered. Ah! Or you could have just sold Grit. Grit, the magazine of death. You sold Grit, nobody wanted to buy it, and you never got... See, I'm going to put the first version of this up on the Fat Comic Book Guy if you want to go back and see how good the first review was when I was really on, and then it all messed up and it stopped and I had to start over, and I don't want to go into it. Anyway, the planet killer goes on and on and on. It's destroying. Mr. Weatherby's telling the Archie gang all about it. Archie's daydreaming. School's over and they all begin to leave, and suddenly they realize that the story was true. And the planet killer's there for them. The end. Wah, wah, wah. Well, that first story was a dismal nightmare. Let's check out the second one. It's called Enter the Machine Age. That's right. We're going to dig down, and we're going to dig an underground city for the human survival. As nuclear bombs and devastation happens in Mohenjo-Daro back in 20,000 years ago. Mohenjo-Daro gets blowed up. Nuclear bombs goes off. The people of the past flee. And that excitement calls for commercials, where you gotta have these really cool race cars from back in the day. That's right. You had all the really cool Indy cars, and oh God, I actually had these, and they raced around a little track. You held this little gun-looking thing with a trigger, and they would shoot around the track at 900 miles an hour and fly off and hit your little brother in the eye and get you in trouble. And you could have drafted. You could have learned how to draft. You could have learned how to draw blueprints and plans and been a true architectural artist. So in full panels, brought to you by the Daddy Dan blog, we have to figure out if we're looking at the past or looking at the future. Horrible nuclear destruction had destroyed the surface world as the citizens dug tunnels. They dug mines. They built their cities inside the earth. They became an underground civilization. That's right. The people of the inner earth, they're in the future. They're in the past, living out their lives, safety of the inner earth, creating machines to do all their labor, which left them plenty of time to toil as they went up to the surface earth to see what's going on. The mutants had become farmers. The mutants had taken over the surface. The mutants only had one flaw. They want to eat the people of the inner earth, so they have to flee back into their tunnels for safety. They cannot go back to the surface. They must live underground. They devised an evil plan. They created an army of Terminator robots that they would seek upon the earth to destroy the mutants so they could regain superiority. The end. What a uplifting, wonderful story that was. So in full panels, brought to you by the Daily Dan blog, we get us a monster, and we love the best start in the whole comic book with the worst story. It came from beneath the earth. That's right, this lizard man gargoyle-looking thing done crawled up in the bowels of the inner earth. That's right, this monster has crawled up to the surface. This monster crawled up, but this monster could scare you. Ooh, it's so scary. And the kid was like, "You don't scare me. Get out of here, Halloween boy." And everybody thinks it's some guy in a costume. And it's so pathetic that it can talk. Yeah, cop's going to give him a ticket for his costume. He can't be on the street looking like that. It's not Halloween. Hey, lizard man meets a chick. Holy smoke. Well, she thinks that's a costume too. Well, that's the way it goes. Anytime Lizard Man comes up, speaks English, looks like a gargoyle, and can conversate with better-looking girls than I get, that's time for a commercial. Hey, look, it's Locksmith. You could have learned how Lockbeard learned his trade and became Locksmith. Hey, you could have worked out and become a He-Man like this guy. He-Man. Or you could have got all kinds of cool stuff like a medallion. Or you could have did this rat's hole. Hey, I got in a rat's hole once. It's a wrestling joke. Okay, and then you get the training home for dog doctor thing. Oh, God, you could have had some rings or some comics. And okay, that's enough commercials. Well, this story ends like most days of our lives. Monster guy meets hot chick. Hot chick and him get along. She breaks his heart, runs away. He hates the world, crawls back to the inner earth to find one of his own kind to live with. The end. Oh, now that's a dismal nightmare of a story. And since we're taking a look at monsters, I gotta tell everybody to be sure to check out my main Bigfoot, Michigan Rob the Book Writer, and his true cryptid encounter stories. I love this book. It's really cool. And I would say check out my friend Eric on Paranormal Highway, where I felt like home. But the name of that's changed to the Eric Wood Podcast. So if you want to see the Paranormal Highway, you now got to go to Eric Wood Podcast. Oh, God. And Paranormal Highway just rolled off my tongue so well. Be sure to check out the Cryptid Hunter, guys. And while we're taking a minute to do shout-outs, let me throw a special shout-out to Thrash Pondo Ponds. We need you to save this comic book because you saved every one of us, Ponds. And Pat McCormick at the Golden Rage of TV. Be sure to check out Pat McCormick. Hey, upcoming real soon, I hear he's got Dave Sunstorm up on the show. And Dave and Pat will be talking about classic good stuff. And be sure to check out Dave Sunstorm here on YouTube, the Good Stuff Leader, and his incredible brother, Steven Sunstorm. God, I hope I get this right. Be sure to check out my friend Tug over at the Unapologetic Geek. Brainbenders, Banners, Retro Nerd Girl, the Nostalgic Pod Blast. My blackest ever work, Corey's Comedy Channel, Big Guys 45s, and BK on the air. The good stuff, guys. And now, the Eye of Doom. And the Eye of Doom starts with all this doom destruction to the comic book. I got to this part on the first review. I was about the same place, and I spazzed when I saw this, the destruction of a wonderful comic book where somebody cut something out. How I want to make somebody's head explode like a little water balloon for this. tragic nightmare you have inflicted on my comic book. The Eye Doom, it's about an eye from space coming to Earth. I know I would be able to tell you more about what's happening, but apparently some of it's missing. Oh, look at the tape together nightmare, bringing my comic book down from a 7.5 to a 2. If they give it that, taped together, ripped out page, big cutout part. Oh my God, even got part of the story. Depressing it is, Chance, from the Nostalgic Bod Blast. We should talk about this. So in full, depressing panels brought to you by the Daily Dan blog, my excitement has left me as the comic book turned into destroyed, the value taken away, my head beginning to hurt. I get the need for weed. Anyway, check out this. It's a Tic Tac. It's 1973, and we got a story about some alien eyes coming to Earth to take over people. And of course, they're in Tic Tacs, because Tic Tacs were even the way UFOs traveled back then. The prisoners are in chains as the Eye Beast takes control and makes slaves of the universe, going from planet to planet, sucking up people, turning them into mindless slaves. Even dogs and space dogs are not immune as the eyes of power take over the universe. We ought to have a commercial now, shouldn't we? Oh, God, we got this Michael Mulroney special right here, where we got lots and lots of write-ins and item lists and cool stuff you could have had and what's going on with the latest comic book. You can pause that and read that if you want to. I'm going to roll through it all a little bit on the faster side, Marone. You're just going to have to live with it. You could have had the Spider-Man medallion. It's a genuine medallion. It was the gold Spider-Man. Anybody's got this, it's probably worth a little bit more than that $1 you paid for it now, isn't it? Right? It's solid gold. It's Spider-Man. It's something I've never seen in person. I've seen the ad, but I've never had one. So in full, bad condition comic book panels brought to you by the Daily Dan blog. Our story rolls on as the eye creatures go from planet to planet, making slaves out of everybody. The Flash Gordon stands up to them. Flash Gordon's got the will of man. Flash Gordon cannot be denied. Flash Gordon's mind cannot be controlled by these eye creatures. Flash Gordon will fight back. Flash! He saved every one of us. Flash! Sadly, I think Flash might fail. Flash goes one-on-one with the eye creatures. A great battle ensues. War in space. But Flash looked into the eye, and Flash become a stuffy. As the eye stuff, that little stuff in the corner up the eye, flew out like marshmallows all over him and sucked up Flash. Well, that's the end. He loses. Wonderful stories. Oh, God. And if you're a little scrawny EO Sky looking chick or guy, you might want to do some weight gain and put on some weight so you don't look like a wimp, like a sag master. Wah, wah, wah. Ah, and they're writing on the back, too. That just makes my day even more complete. Well, that's my look at Weird Wonder Tales #1 from 1973. The book I thought that was excellent. The book I thought was going to be great. The book I thought that was a #1. You know, the one with writing on the cover, rips in it, stuff cut out. At least the cover's in pretty good condition. And if I don't tell nobody about the inside, nobody's ever going to know. And it ain't like I do this for anything more than fun anyway, right? Only reason I do it is for that cool cover to hang on the wall. I'm not trying to make a fortune off no comic books. So there you go. That's my look. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you happen to know who did the damage to this comic book, be sure to email me their name and address, and I'll go kick their ass in person. Until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'm out. Blog over, dudes.